Listen carefully. Right now, as you watch this, a bridge somewhere in America is being held together by a repair patch that was supposed to last 5 years. That patch was installed in 2009. And while that bridge slowly gives way, engineers in China just finished building a smart highway that monitors its own stress levels in real time. Engineers in Germany just launched a freight rail corridor that reroutes itself during weather disruptions, automatically, with zero human input. So here is the question no one in Washington wants to answer. Why is the rest of the world building the future, while America struggles to patch the past? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never look at American roads, bridges, or rail the same way again.
It is all just bullshit.
Here is a statement that should make every American deeply uncomfortable. The American Society of Civil Engineers has graded U.S. infrastructure a C-, not an F, not a D, a C-, which sounds almost acceptable, until you realize that grade represents 43,000 structurally deficient bridges, 45,000 miles of highway in poor condition, a water pipe that bursts every 2 minutes, every single day somewhere across this country. A pipe bursting every 2 minutes. This is not a theory. This is not a projection. This is the current reality as of mid-2026, while our global competitors have already entered the next generation of infrastructure design. The question is no longer if America is falling behind. The question is, how did we let it get this bad? Let's start at the root. The number one killer of American infrastructure progress is not money. It is time. To build a major highway project in the United States, the average timeline from approval to completion is 13 years. 13 years. In that same window, South Korea built an entire high-speed rail network connecting 5 major cities. Japan expanded its Shinkansen bullet train corridor across a mountain range. The UAE built a fully operational Hyperloop prototype corridor from scratch. So what is America doing during those 13 years? Filing paperwork. Environmental reviews. Public comment periods, interagency approvals, state-level permitting, federal funding authorization cycles, legal challenges, budget revisions, political turnover. And then, after all of that, the project frequently gets redesigned from the beginning because regulations changed mid-process. This is what bureaucratic paralysis looks like from the inside. And it is not accidental. It is structural. It is baked into the system. Here is something that should shock you. The National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, was designed in 1970 to protect the environment during construction. A noble goal, absolutely necessary. But today, a single NEPA environmental impact statement averages 4.5 years just to complete, before one shovel hits the ground. Meanwhile, comparable reviews in Canada take 18 months. In Australia, 2 years. In the Netherlands, 1 year. Same environmental protections, a fraction of the time. The problem is not the law. The problem is a regulatory architecture that was never modernized for the 21st century, and a political system that profits from the delay. Now, let's talk about money. Because this is where the betrayal gets personal. In 2021, Congress passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, $1.2 trillion, the largest infrastructure investment since Eisenhower built the interstate highway system in the 1950s. On paper, that sounds like a turning point. But here is what they didn't tell you. Of that $1.2 trillion, only $550 billion was actually new spending. The rest was reauthorized existing funds that were already allocated. And of that new spending, by mid-2026, independent analysts estimate that less than 30% has resulted in ground-level construction. The rest is trapped in the exact bureaucratic pipeline we just described. But here is the deeper problem, the one nobody is talking about on cable news. America's infrastructure funding model is fragmented by design. A single project, say repairing an aging commuter rail line, might require funding from the Federal Transit Administration, the Department of Transportation, a state transportation authority, a county public works office, and a municipal transit agency, all with different fiscal calendars, different approval processes, and different political priorities. Now compare that to Singapore. Singapore's Land Transport Authority controls a single unified budget for all transit infrastructure, roads, rail, ports. One agency, one timeline, one accountability structure. Result? Singapore completed its latest MRT subway expansion.
Let's zoom out, because what is happening globally right now is nothing short of a civilizational race, and America is not even in the starting blocks. China. By 2026, China operates over 45,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. 45,000. The United States operates 0. Not a single mile of true high-speed rail in commercial service. Let that land for a moment. Europe. The European Union is currently executing a unified transcontinental rail modernization plan, the 10T network, connecting 30 member states with standardized, electrified, digitally managed corridors by 2030. 24 countries, one unified vision, executed simultaneously. India, a developing economy that American pundits still condescend toward, just launched its third high-speed rail corridor and is deploying AI-powered traffic management across 47 major cities. South Korea, the Netherlands, Japan, UAE, Saudi Arabia. Every one of these nations is executing generational infrastructure, built not to survive the next election cycle, but to serve the next 50 years. And what is America's generational infrastructure project right now? Trying to fix the same pothole on I-95 that opened up in...
Now here is where this stops being a history lesson and starts being a warning. The American power grid, the backbone of every hospital, every data center, every traffic system, every home, was largely designed in the 1960s and 1970s. The average age of a large power transformer in the United States is over 40 years. Most of them have a designed lifespan of 40 years. We are operating critical national infrastructure past its expiration date. And the consequences are no longer hypothetical. In 2025, 3 separate grid failures across the southeastern United States cost a combined $14 billion in economic disruption. In early 2026, a burst water main in Chicago left 80,000 residents without clean water for 6 days. 6 days in an American city in 2026. Infrastructure experts, and I am not talking about political commentators, I am talking about engineers and systems analysts, have begun using a phrase that should keep every policymaker awake at night: cascading failure.
Cascading failure is what happens when one aging system puts unsustainable load on an adjacent aging system, which then fails, which collapses the next layer, which triggers the one after that.
So where does this leave us? The American dream, that foundational promise of mobility, opportunity, and growth, is physically dependent on infrastructure. You cannot have economic dynamism on crumbling roads. You cannot have global competitiveness without reliable power. You cannot have national security without a grid that cannot be disrupted. The diagnosis is not complicated. Outdated regulatory frameworks that trap projects in decade-long approval cycles. A fragmented funding model that diffuses accountability across dozens of agencies. A political culture that rewards ribbon cuttings over long-term investment. And a legacy system so deeply embedded that reform requires the kind of political will that modern Washington has forgotten how to generate. The treatment is not mysterious either. Streamlined permitting, unified infrastructure authorities at the regional level, long-term capital budgets insulated from annual political cycles, and a return to the only thing that ever built great infrastructure in this country, national ambition.
If this video made you think differently about the roads you drive, the water you drink, or the power keeping your lights on right now, then share it. Not because this channel needs the views, but because the people who design policy respond to volume. They respond to awareness. They respond when a conversation becomes too loud to ignore. This conversation needs to be louder. Subscribe for more deep dives on the systems shaping and threatening the world we actually live in. We are running out of time, but we are not out of time yet.
All just bullshit.